Challengers was initially set to be released in September of 2023, but got delayed several months due to the SAG-AFTRA strikes. It was, without question, one of my most anticipated films of this year, especially after spending the last few days binging other films directed by Luca Guadagnino, and I am so pleased to announce that even after all those high expectations, this still somehow managed to surpass those expectations. The plot follows this love triangle between tennis players played by Zendaya, Mike Faist, Josh O'Connor, as you probably can note from the marketing image that we have been seeing for what feels like years at this point. Through the sport of tennis, we see them discover their feelings between one another over the course of 13 years, told through a non-linear method. And the non-linear storytelling, as it is used in this film, is honestly the most ideal use of this technique. Typically, when a story utilizes a flashback, it allows information to be conveyed in a more thematic way that isn't bound by our actual perception of time, and pretty much just gives us cool plot twists and reveals that make us reevaluate what we previously thought of these characters. And this film uses it perfectly, because there isn't just one major plot point that is revealed in a flashback, but every single time we go back to a previous moment, there is new information that is introduced to us. We gain more insight on these characters so that when we are in the present moment, the perspective is completely shifted on their own character motivation and even our personal opinion on them. But the even better storytelling technique that is used in this film is the constant metaphors and the visual language that this film utilizes. It really helps clue us in on the character development of each person. One of my favorite things that a film can have is a script that isn't completely relying on the dialogue to convey the storytelling. Sure, there is plenty of dialogue in this film and it is very well written, but it often comes secondary to the physical performances and all the expressions that each actor is bringing to the table. That, along with the constant metaphors from eating food that looks very intentionally provocative, or the blocking and staging of every single scene, so we are constantly aware of how close or far everyone is relationally to each other. The use of tennis as a sport especially feels inspired, because one of my favorite things that a sports movie can do is not only use that sport as a plot point, but also use it as a greater representation of the relational dynamics between two characters. This obviously doesn't work for all sports, but sports that rely on two people playing against each other give us this natural tension and relationship dynamics that can be shot in the form of an action scene. Boxing or other fighting movies are the obvious example of this, but even baseball is a great cinematic example of storytelling between two people in the form of what is almost like a duel between two opposing players. The tension between a pitcher and batter, them staring each other down with us as the audience having a previous understanding of their history. It can be extremely moving and effective, and in this specific film, that is what tennis is in the place of. You can see relationships develop and also struggle, not relying a lot on the dialogue to tell you that, but rather through the actual tennis playing. But don't worry, because like I said, when there is dialogue, it's also very good. I loved how many of the conversations were intercut with the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. It has this techno-like vibe to it that pairs extremely well with many of the tense conversations that are being had. There would be times when the score would cut in whenever there was a moment of silence, but then there were other times where it would purposely leave a moment of silence and only come in when the characters are talking, almost to add this level of chaos and tension for us as the audience. Either way, the score was absolutely brilliant, and this is probably my favorite score that they have done since The Social Network. And this is without question my favorite performance I've ever seen Zendaya give, but I think the credit needs to equally be distributed to the director, because he really does allow each individual actor to have the space to perform each scene in a way that goes beyond the lines that they are just reciting. There are many patient moments in this film where characters are just existing while simultaneously having the most passionate stares between one another, and each one of them is giving a full physical performance, whether that be through the action scenes of tennis playing itself or the more romantic, passionate scenes that this film very heavily advertised. So it's no surprise I absolutely adored this film. I can guarantee it will be towards the top of my favorites when it comes to the end of this year. So that's my thoughts on Challengers, but I would love to hear yours. So if you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I will see you next time.